I can't leave because of that pension, or 12 years or however long can't go by fast enough. What advice would you give?
An excuse is the skin of a lie wrapped with a reason. We use it as an excuse. The reality is it's not that we're staying for the pension a lot of times, at least what I see. The reason is that we're scared. We work in the government space. We have a good job. We have a job that we're probably not going to get fired at.
You're fired!
And we hear all these stories and we see all the news stories. Remember the fake media, if it doesn't bleed, it doesn't lead. Right now you're watching on the news every day practically. Boeing just announced layoffs, Microsoft layoffs. I mean, layoffs galore. And we go, look at the corporate world. They're all getting laid off. I can't get laid off. And we go, okay, that layoff, which affects a small percentage of Americans, that's going to affect me. And now I've just put myself in a situation where I don't have a job. And here's my advice to my officers. Going into the corporate world can be scary. Trust me, I jumped off a cliff. I would have qualified for my pension in 2 months from today. Or from the beginning of this month. And so I left at 14 and a half years of service. I could have done a couple more years and got my pension. I jumped off a cliff and said, you know what, I have a dream and I'm gonna go see what happens. And for a lot of us, if it doesn't work out in the corporate world, the worst thing that happens, you go back and be a cop again. Okay, you give up some seniority. But you know what? You have a fallback. You just don't think you do. And the second thing is how are you going to know if you don't jump off that cliff? And the third is, if you have good work ethic, you don't have to worry about being laid off. Because if you get laid off, I've yet to meet somebody that was a hard charger that didn't go find another job. Now, if you're lazy, you got stuff to worry about.
Right.
But if you have good work ethic, you can do it. And the other thing we get tied into is I hear cops all the time, man, all I know how to do is be a cop.
Yes.
You have no idea the skill set, especially as you start to become a supervisor. You get on the SWAT team, you become a detective. You have such highly regarded specialized skills that correlate so well into the corporate world. There's a really good blog out there. It's a nonprofit called Cop to Corporate. And they help people that are, hey, this is not yes, it's a scary ledge to jump off of. But you know what? There's a lot of success stories and you can do it too.
Nick, I appreciate you offering that insight and that opinion, because I do feel bad for people who don't make a leap and they pretty much suffer in silence for years upon years and just out of fear. Now, don't get me wrong. We are human, and fear is the one thing that'll hold us back a lot. Even if we're doing something that is stressing us out or not healthy for us, the fear of the unknown, the fear of not knowing how it'll play out. Yeah, it's definitely a big part. But hey, through the information you just gave, I feel like that'll give someone something to think about. You did mention the corporate layoffs, and from what I'm hearing, 2023 could be a very bad year economically. Any advice for police officers?
Are we going to have a recession this year? The jury's out right now. Who knows? If we do have a recession, it's probably going to be the most widely predicted recession to ever be put out there. Now, we hear the word recession and we think back to the last recession, which was the 08-09 financial crisis. To me, what I've been telling a lot of people is what's scarier is the fact that we haven't had a recession in 14 years. That's not normal. We average a recession every 5 to 6 years. If we have a recession, my thought and a lot of other people's thought right now is that it's going to be potentially a very shallow recession. It's not going to be a very prolonged recession at all. I could be wrong. There's mitigating factors that could go into that.
Oh, absolutely.
But the other thing is the layoffs we're in a situation where bad news is good news right now. We actually want to see more layoffs right now. And that sounds counterintuitive. Why? Well, when it comes to the stock market and the economy, the top three things that everybody's watching in the economy right now is inflation. Interest rates are going up to battle inflation. And one of the last key indicators that the Federal Reserve is looking for to be able to slow down raising interest rates is the labor market to slow down. They need that labor market to slow down so that we can start to get to the point where they can stop raising rates and start lowering rates. And that's when you're going to see this economy likely start to turn around. There's a lot of discussion out there right now that we may actually avoid the recession. The Federal Reserve may pull off what's called a soft landing. What the heck is that? What the Federal Reserve is trying to do is they're trying to slow the economy down enough to curb inflation without throwing us into a recession. Think about when you're on an airplane. You're coming into the airport. You want that pilot to guide that jet down on the runway and have a soft landing. That's what they're trying to accomplish. Occasionally it gets rocky. We slam down and it's a rough landing. But you know what always happens after the rough landing? We make it through. We get to the gate. We get off the plane. We move on.
Yeah.
And we look back and we forget about it. And that's what typically happens in recessions. They can be painful. They're usually short-lived, and we move on. So don't get so tied into the recession talk right now. Yes, it is something that is out there, but it's not a huge thing. Long term, slow and steady typically wins the race in this. And so I'm not worried about that. So the views expressed in this are for informational purposes only, and in no event should be construed as an offer to buy or sell securities. Additionally, this class is not designed to advise you on how to handle anything specific to your finances, nor will listening to my advice guarantee your financial success. The opinions expressed are subject to change without notice and do not take into account your particular financial investment objectives, financial situation, or needs in an individual investor. Neither IFP Advisors, LLC, IFP Securities, doing business as independent financial partners, nor their affiliates offer tax or legal advice. Interested parties are strongly encouraged to seek advice from a qualified tax and/or legal expert regarding the best options for your particular circumstances. Investment advice offered through IFP Advisors, independent financial partners, a registered investment advisor. IFP is not affiliated with my company, Serve and Protect Financial, and/or doing business as Financial Cop.